Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for the 13th of November 2012. Not much to talk about out in the tropics, as you would expect this time of year. Are watching this area here, non-tropical in nature. Got a front associated with it, but it looks like it is going to try to intensify as it moves north over the Atlantic here, the subtropical Atlantic, and become a fairly potent ocean storm, perhaps affecting the extreme southeast part of Atlantic Canada up in Newfoundland. We also see this cold front slowly making eastward progress across the United States. Not very cold air behind it, just a slight temperature drop, nothing too significant, no Arctic air in place right now. Looking at the vorticity signature for the system in the Atlantic, you can see here where it's a little bit stretched out. It's not very concentrated. Same thing with our cold front. All the vorticity and energy linear in nature, so it's stretched out over a long area instead of bundled in one location. Watch what happens with this, though, when we check this out tomorrow. I think this system will get a little bit more consolidated, and maybe it'll warrant an outlook from the National Hurricane Center as a possible subtropical storm threat. And when I say threat, only by threat of forming. And as I mentioned, I think the only impact will be as it moves on off up here and perhaps brushes Cape Race and that area of Newfoundland. If we look at the different models comparing the two, this is last night's ECMWF model, the Euro. This is valid tonight. And you can see that low pressure area in the Atlantic, big high pressure to its north, and it'll actually start to eat away at that high and move on out to the northeast over time. And then at day 2 here, in day 3, you see it pretty well formed up here in the North Atlantic, just off the coast of Newfoundland. More than likely an extratropical mid-latitude storm where the energy and the wind and everything is spread out over a larger area, and it's more of a temperature contrast storm with energy coming in from the atmosphere than it is deriving that energy from the ocean. So that's what makes the difference there. But we'll see. Maybe the Hurricane Center will at least mention it, and it could possibly be a subtropical system. We'll have to see how that pans out. Then at day 4, it moves on out of the picture. Then, at day 5, something interesting starts to happen. You see right here off the North and South Carolina coast, we get a little bend in the isobars as low pressure starts to develop. At day 6, it starts to take shape. A lot of heat and energy starting to brew down here. Some warm water temperature still remaining here. Then you've got upper level energy diving in from the U.S., coming in behind this high pressure area. And we have the makings of another very large storm system. The Euro pretty adamant about it. At day 7, you can see that really starting to fire up. Very long ocean fetch coming in across from the east to the west, blowing over a large area of the ocean. That could pile up the water. Some of the wave watch heights that I've seen out here in the long range indicate the possibility of 20 to 30 foot seas at about the week to 8 day time frame. So we're going to have to watch this closely. Maybe another powerful ocean storm. Not as much snow this time, I don't think, because of the lack of cold air and the proximity to the coast. But this thing looks like it could be so large that that long ocean fetch could be the bigger problem. Think about Ida in 2009 that became Nor-Ida, the nor'easter-Ida combination, or extratropical storm Noel in 2007 that came up out of the Bahamas and went up into the Maritimes. It was a large storm covering a huge area of ocean, and it really starts to churn that water up and pile it up against the continent. That is the problem. You don't have to have a landfall or a close call to get these problems. Just look at that nor'easter last week. So we're going to be watching this closely. If we compare that to the latest run of the GFS, which is based on this morning's data, the 12Z run, this is valid 48 hours later, so this is Thursday morning. We see the low pressure area that the Euro is picking up on down here now, up off the coast of Newfoundland, as I mentioned. Pretty potent, strong northwest winds, 40 knots or so on the backside, and then a pretty stiff southeast wind on the southeast side of it, so we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, maybe, just maybe, this gets classified as a subtropical system. We'll have to wait and see how the Hurricane Center handles that. This might be much more of a high seas forecast issue or tropical analysis forecast branch rather than a true tropical system to worry about. The GFS at day 3, that system starts to move on out. You can see it there. Day 4, it's headed on into the jet stream. And then we start to see the energy coalesce here off the Carolina coast as the GFS spreads the energy out over a larger area than does the Euro. Here's day 5, day 6, and you can see what a large storm system that is, a huge area of the western Atlantic Ocean impacted by this 1,006 millibar low or something like that, and then 1044 millibar high coming out of Canada. You get that pretty strong pressure gradient in between. Remember, we talked about that before Sandy hit. That's why you had such a big problem in Florida, that pressure gradient. The difference between the low pressure with Sandy and the high pressure over New England created a lot of stiff easterly winds in Florida with a lot of beach erosion and even some coastal flooding. Finally, the GFS at day 7 shows a weaker storm than the Euro, but the energy seems to be spread out over a larger area. You see that? There's energy here, some here, some here. GFS having a hard time consolidating things again. The Euro, I think, does a better job of that. It handled Sandy's evolution about as well as could be expected. But again, you got this big high sitting over the northeast part of North America, and then low pressure developing down to its south. I think the one thing that I'm fairly certain of, we're going to have some kind of a storm out here over the ocean with a pretty good fetch of wind blowing across more than 500, 700, 800 miles of ocean, and that could cause some coastal flooding issues along the areas where Sandy impacted and then the nor'easter last week. So nothing in the tropics to speak of, but still a very active weather pattern and a lot for people to be aware of. And that's what we're all about here, is making sure that you're aware so that you can make the right decisions about what to do with plenty of notice. Very good. So that's it for today. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thank you so much for watching this video update on Hurricane HD, whichever app you're using. We're glad you're using it, and I'll be back with another video blog for you tomorrow.